Hello everybody and welcome to World of Warships with your Captain Blackjack. Now, today is a very special one because the 2.13 patch for Armoured Warfare is currently on release, which means that I can't do my Armoured Warfare video, which is what I want to do today, until the servers come back up at about 3 o'clock my time. Obviously by the time this video goes up and it actually uploads to YouTube, it's probably going to have been worth just waiting, but I'm impatient like that. Today we have the Warspite, the HMS Warspite. This was the dreadnought of the British Navy. She was feared and envied by pretty much the entire world at the time of her construction. She was revolutionary, incredibly well armoured, carried a monstrous armour of 386mm guns, almost unheard of on ship-to-ship combat. Completely unrivaled even by the New Mexico's 356, although her range is somewhat mediocre at best. Her rate of fire isn't terrible, 29-30 seconds I think on a reload, which isn't bad considering the damage that these guns can do. She is well designed to take torpedoes. Now this is one of those ships where if you are taking a broadside of torpedoes, you don't have to worry. Well, I don't say you don't have to worry. You have to worry, but you don't have to worry as much as you would in, say, a New Mexico or a Nagato, Fuso, Congo, etc. Now, excuse the terrible shooting here. I'm using ripple fire in the Warspite, which I will tell you now is really, really bad. The supposed legendary British accuracy was apparently something that was missing from the Warspite since release. In beta, this thing was unbelievably broken. You could fire at max range and literally never miss. Obviously, for balance reasons, that was something that they needed to fix, which is completely fair. You don't really want to get caught out by yourself in this ship. She has got a better rate of fire than most battleships, and her accuracy is impressive. Again, terrible salvo. I sucked through this game. I am so sorry you have to sit and watch this. The advantage of the Warspite over most other tier 6 battleships is her AA is actually pretty impressive, despite the numbers you read. It's actually one of my favourite battleships if I'm against a carrier. Her secondary armament, side-mounted guns, are ridiculous. I mean, I have had fights where I've gone in between two cruisers and my secondaries have killed them before my main batteries have had time to aim. They're very accurate for a good rate of fire, and they hit pretty hard as well for HEs. Don't be afraid to get in close with a cruiser. Obviously try not to, because Japanese cruisers pack those rather lovely torpedoes, and you don't want to come across a Tirpitz either. The Tirpitz is not is not your friend. Her overall hit points are average for a tier 6, 53,800. Her top speed is around 24 knots, so she's quicker than you might expect. Again, I'm probably going to miss all these New Orleans shots. Yep, there they go. Terrible shooting. I just could not aim. I think I was still pissed off that I couldn't do my Armoured Warfare. I lose my temper actually with the ripple fire in about a minute or so, and the difference is ridiculous when you consider that ripple fire you'd think would be a bit more accurate, but we'll see. Yes, this is a tier 8 game, and yes, I am being completely ignored. Now you'll find this in a Warspite. I found that I either 1 out of 8. That was awful. I am either the centre of attention from everything on the enemy team, or they completely ignore me. Yeah, I do. I go after the North Carolina here, and yes, he is actually stationary. This was something I could not believe. I was seeing a tier 8 battleship sat still when he had 3 battleships and 3 cruisers firing at him. Look, 2 out of 8 hits, and I did nothing. I didn't pierce his armour. That cruiser over on my right is doing more damage with HE. That is embarrassing. But yeah, I lost my temper in the end. I got really irritated with the ripple fire. I tried that. I tried a one last salvo because he started reversing. Now that was beyond me. I mean, he's in a North Carolina. He's got the armament really to have charged down that Mogami there and obliterated him with his side guns and done some serious damage to everything else around him. But there you go, World of Warships battleship drivers. Why are you so silly? Yeah, you'll see now. This is the difference between ripple and just a broadside. And I was a little upset actually because I fired that off and I thought I'll switch to HE because that's not going to do anything. And bang! There you go. 6 out of 8 hit. That was a big hit as well. And I'm still loading HE. Still loading HE. And that Mogami, yes, did just torp. That. He did actually torp that North Carolina. Now, there you go. Battleship drivers, you know they've got torpedoes. If you're in a tier 8, you've played enough games to understand that Japanese cruisers have a lot of long-range torpedoes. So why, oh why, do you sail in straight bloody lines? Now yes, this is HE. There's no way I'm going to hit that New Mexico at this kind of range. He's turning away from me, and then I spot my counterpart. That is a stock New Mexico. You can tell it's stock because he doesn't have the lovely paint job that the upgraded hulls get. Now I was a little irritated here because if these had been armour piercing, that would have done a whole lot more damage. A whole lot more damage. And it didn't. It was HE because I thought I'd have to fire at that North Carolina again. Now that New Mexico is turning into the cap circle, so I turn my attention to the Tirpitz. Now the Tirpitz is not actually a battleship. She is a battle cruiser. A lot of misconception there, same as the Bismarck when it's released will be a battle cruiser. The British line, if the HMS Hood is present, she will be a battle cruiser, which is basically a heavy cruiser with battleship guns strapped to it. Now, I reverted back to ripple fire, and there you go. I really wish I hadn't. And I never learn. I think I end up using ripple fire for the rest of this game. Now, I was honestly expecting the enemy to start focusing me down because I'm one of the last 3 battleships at this point. It's 3 on 3 battleships, and that New Mexico rammed the Tirpitz and made himself a sitting duck, but I led too much. But that time round, and yes, there you go, cruiser captains, please pay attention to where you're driving. There's nothing more irritating than losing a gun lock because a cruiser has just rammed the side of my ship. Although, to be fair, he didn't blame me for it, which was nice. Usually it's a stupid BB driver or some such. Usually retarded is a word used. Now watch that destroyer carefully. And watch that Tirpitz. That's our friendly Tirpitz. That is a destroyer. He knows it's there. It's been spotted. And he still sailed in a straight line far too long. He does, I think, only take 1 of these. No, it took 2. But that's 2 torpedoes he could very easily have avoided. Now you'll notice that I am ignoring the New Mexico to my left. I really don't feel he's a threat. Because he's not. He can't shoot. He's using HEs. And he's in a New Mexico. So I'm not really that fussed. That destroyer does make my... Oh, I'm yawning so much. That destroyer does make my life a little difficult here. I don't want to get too close in case I get torped. I know he's there, but I have to close. I have to go and play with these battleships. I have to do something because I've got 14 hits, 11 hits, 14? I can't see, the screen's too small, but it's 11 or 14 hits out of about 10 salvos fired, so that's 1 in 8 average, or 1 in 8.5, whatever. We'll call it 1 in 8 for just to be easier. Atago. Now this thing, tier 8 premium. I'm not a fan of tier 8 premium. I always felt that like World of Tanks, like War Thunder, and all the others before it, you should never have a premium above tier 6. And that's purely and simply because up to tier 6 it's pretty forgiving, the game's pretty forgiving, the gameplay is fairly forgiving, the enemy haven't got absolutely thousands of games above your experience. I personally would advise anybody considering buying tier 6 or above ships, play the game first, because the amount of money that you'll spend on one of those ships, you could end up getting yourself premium for 6 months and grind out a tier 6. Only advantages of premium, the only advantage is they make more credits and they cost less to repair, and that's upsetting, really. I was expecting a bit more bang for my buck, but in terms of gameplay stability, I completely understand, and I agree with Wargaming's approach of it. The Warspite underperforms comparative to, say, the Miyoko, which is a tier 6 cruiser. It doesn't have the versatility or speed of a cruiser, but she doesn't have the range to tango with a battleship. That New Mexico really did just ruin my day. I think that since the armour changes, I'm on fire now, wonderful. I think since the armour changes, the Warspite has suffered a lot more than the other battleships of her tier, which is a bit of a shame. The Warspite did have very thick armour, was very well designed, very well built torpedo bulge, but since the armour changes, I find myself being penetrated by cruiser armour piercing a lot more. Lost a gun. And I mean a lot more. It's not too bad when you're facing other battleships and you start throwing out shells at each other, but there you go, those are armour piercing shells coming from a Nuremberg, and those are piercing my armour. Yeah, alright, plunging fire, that's fine, but that's still the better part of 100 mil of deck armour, and it's just going clean through. I mean, yeah, it's one of those things, but that's a Nuremberg light cruiser. It's a German light cruiser. I think she's only got 150mm guns. They are tiny guns comparative to the monstrosities I am firing, but he's done more damage to me than most of those battleships combined, and he sat still here, which was incredibly stupid. I think I'm firing. Yeah, I am like an idiot. I'm still firing armour piercing, although I think I get a couple of really good hits. Yeah, that's not a bad hit, so I'll call it 6,000 damage total. Reading the chat, you've got a lot of bitching going on. It's just fairly standard fare. Although, watch this game carefully, because we are ahead. We are in the lead. We are 5-4. They have 2 battleships, 2 cruisers. To our 2 battleships, 3 cruisers. 5-4. Now watch that score, because they hold all the objectives. This is where it starts getting desperate. That Nuremberg takes a fair bit of punishment. I can't engage that Tirpitz. I literally cannot engage him. He's out of my range, which is depressing for another 20 seconds before I can get my spotter plane up. I wasted that consumable, really. No, I like what they did with that. I like how you can't just keep repairing yourself to full health. It does have a penalty for continuous use. And boom, there you go. Switch to HEs and all of a sudden I'm doing incredible damage. I don't want to be on fire at this point because I'm going to have to tango with that New Mexico. He is firing armour piercing. You just saw the bounces there. So he's firing armour piercing and he was successfully going through my armour. And I think he's going to die here. I'd be really upset if he doesn't. Set him on fire, too much lead. No, those ones are alright actually. Incapacitated his guns. Now that's what I wanted to see. That's what I want to feel. Yeah, that New Mexico's still firing HE. Ouch. That I'm gonna sink that Nuremberg, I think. In fact, he's gonna burn, so I'm gonna switch to AP. I'm already switching. And that was actually taken out from under me. And I'm completely okay with that, because I am going to utterly ruin this New Mexico today. Now, so keep your eye on the scores. Alright, just keep your eye on the scores, because we are losing horrendously at this point. We are 50 points down. 50 points. And the guys in the chat are like, just chatting shit at this point. Just kill things, you know, we're going to. But that New Mexico is sailing away, sailing away. He's trying to, I think he's desperately trying to get behind that island. He's not got any consumables left. He's being hammered by HE from across the way, and I'm gonna polish that off. Nope, that was taken from me as well. Never mind. Now, watch. Remember that Tirpitz? That wonderful, wonderful Tirpitz? Yep. Yeah, you're seeing that. You are seeing that. He has beached himself. He's beached himself in a Tirpitz. Now watch that score, because it's just getting real close. Just keep your eye on that score, because that's a salvo out, and that's a whole lot of spread on that salvo. So only 4 hits. Only 4 hits. But look at the score, and now look at what's happening to Charlie. And this is what's upsetting, is if these shells had landed, I would probably have sunk that Tirpitz. But there you go, victory. Well, that's some gameplay from the HMS Warspite, a ship well worth running. Although I don't think you can get it anymore. It's not terrible, not great. Average, I would say, is a good way to think. As always, have a good night. Later.